Welcome to part 4, our final part of our intriguing interview with Ian Ogilvy. So you moved to America where you continue to work in television and shows like Walker, Texas Ranger, Murder, She Wrote, Murphy Brown, Jag, but you also seem to turn towards radio plays and books or audiobooks, right? So how did
a lot of that's to do with not being offered to do anything else. Let's be honest about this. The older you get in this, I would say to the young cast at the Academy, is youth is on your side. You know, young people want young people. And nobody likes looking at old farts on television and movies. Yes, obviously, Christopher Plummer continues to work. You know, they don't. It's few. Well, Joe, come on.
No,
I
completely agree with you.
Between,
yeah.
You know, and you see the same old faces playing the same starring parts, right? And work begins to dry up. There's no question about it. And for me, it began to dry up really seriously around about 2000, 2001, after I'd been in this country 10 years, because I came in 1989. Up to that time, I'd worked very consistently in movies and television and some theatre. And then all of a sudden, some of the shows that employed older actors, Murder, She Wrote got cancelled at the height of its popularity. Same thing with Diagnosis Murder, at the height of their popularity. And the reason being is that what's the word I'm looking for? The audience groups weren't right for the advertisers. Older people don't change their minds. An older person, if he's used Crest toothpaste most of his life, is not going to change his mind because an advertiser says try Aquafresh. That's why they don't like those shows that attract older viewers. So they cancelled all those shows, and all of a sudden actors like me suddenly found themselves very badly out of work. Around about that time, I discovered writing books, which I have been reasonably successful at. I had a children's series of books which are sold all over the world, and currently AMC has them to develop into a TV series. Whether or not it'll happen, I don't know. But you can make a living doing that if you're any good at it, and luckily enough, I found that I was okay at it. A lot of my contemporaries found life very difficult and very hard. Also, around about that time, I actually started working at the Academy. So that was another lovely thing I was able to do, and I've enjoyed. I've been there on and off, only as a visiting guest director, but I've done 13, maybe 14 years there. And I've loved every minute of it, but I only come in every, two times a year or something. But I've loved it, yeah. So in answer to your question about audiobooks and radio, that was what was on offer. Partly because the BBC still does radio plays in England, and there's a company here that makes them, and they love making them here because they can get extraordinary people to be in them. I did a woman of no importance, I can't remember which one it was, but with Mira Sorvino starring in it. And she had never done a radio play, so talk about intimidation. She was very intimidated by all us English radio actors because we know how to do radio. But she said, I have no idea how to do this. And she was wonderful. But that's why, given my druthers, I'd rather be in a TV series or doing a movie or doing a lovely play. But radio is not a particularly popular medium here in terms of plays, but it is still in England. So that's why I do them, yeah.
That's as good a reason as any.
It's as good a reason as any, yes. And by the way, radio is lovely. You don't have to learn the lines. You don't have to put the makeup on. No costume. The minimum rehearsal.
Right.
But you are doing it with your voice. Now, that was interesting when we did Importance of Being Honest, because so much of it was vocal. Yes, we did have the head. We had the talking heads. That was nice. But in a sense, without being able to use your body, you had to put so much more with your voice. You know?
Right.
And we just really
make that work for you.
We studied the language, and
exactly.
That's where that came out.
What's the difference in preparing for like a radio play? Do you feel like of course, obviously you don't have to learn lines, you don't have to do any of that, but is there another avenue you go to prepare for something like that, other than just reading?
Just get in your car and
just get in your car.
There's Bill Nighy, I'm such a fan of Bill Nighy, the English actor Bill Nighy. And I saw him, I think he's got a piece on Facebook where he's asked questions about how he prepares for acting, does he do much research? And his replies are always unbelievably refreshing. He does absolutely no research at all, ever. Why? What's the point? He said, it doesn't help me. He said, it doesn't help me at all. He said, it's on the page of the script. That's my research. I learned that, and that's all I do. And everything he does kind of takes away some of the mystique of acting and some of the nonsense that's written and talked about acting, you know. So I'm not saying everybody should do no research. Everybody has their own way of doing things. But it is perfectly legitimate, in my opinion, playing a role, to do no research at all. Perfectly legitimate. Because you can only play really what's on the page. You can have the most wonderful backstory and the most wonderful stuff, and people do this because it helps them. And that's a very, very good reason for doing it. But it is not necessarily, I don't believe, and that's my personal opinion, and not shared by many acting teachers.
Basically, it's whatever works for you to get you where you need to be to do what you're going to do. You know?
I mean, I just did a radio play. I just did a nice little role in a thing. The original book of Sweeney Todd, by the way, it's called Sweeney Todd and the Necklace of Pearls, or the Pearl Necklace. And they just did it, and I just recorded it about 4 days ago.
Yeah?
I played a character called Major Bounce, who is in love with Mrs. Lovett, and then goes and gets his throat cut. But, you know. It's great fun, funny little English, sort of old English, silly old soldier character, you know. And I thought, well, I won't say I'll have a soft R. So, you know, I said W instead of R for all the R's. That worked quite well. It made the director laugh. and there's no research to be done. What can you do? You just go in and you do it, you know.
You just create something. And we've talked a little bit about it before, back when we did Ernest, but, you know, I agree in a lot of ways with what you just said. Now, do you find it easier once you've gone through life a little bit and you become a seasoned actor? Do you think it's easier to do no research then because you've lived life? Do you think it's easier for a younger actor to do research because they have to find some connection with it? But as you get older, the connection's already there. You've already lived that. You already know.
Well, look, I know older actors who research endlessly, because that's their process. As I've gone through, I've discovered that it doesn't really help me. I can only act what's there on the page, you know. But again, it's a great thing for a younger actor to cling to as well. It's like a safety net in a way. Having done the research, the young actor understandably believes he's done a lot of the work, and in some ways he has. But really, all the work is when you're doing it, isn't it? Everything else is just peripheral to it. So I never say don't do all that stuff. Don't write your backstory. Don't wonder what your mother had for tea. I never say any of that. You know, it's whatever floats your boat, frankly. You know, it's whatever works for you. Yes.
Well, because no one's ever all the bio writing you do, which I think is important for young actors. You know, absolutely. But nobody's going to see that but you. No. Nobody's ever asked me for a bio before.
You know, I mean, one of my things I always have when I'm directing is look, stop. Why are you pausing? And the young actor might say, well, because I'm making a decision to do something. I say the audience doesn't care. Yeah. Please, nobody wants to watch that. Nobody ever wants to see that. Nobody likes watching actors think.
It's like feelings. Yeah. Feeling.
You hounded on me on that.
Yeah. Shift. Be like, yes. Yeah.
If I have to
There's
spend 2 hours.
There's a famous story, not famous, it's quite, is when the Actors Studio, Lee Strasberg, brought 3 sisters to London. It was a very exciting moment for London to have this great extraordinary production by this great extraordinary director, and because all the actors in London really wanted to see it, the ones who were already in the theatre, it was decided to do a dress rehearsal on a Sunday night. In England, Sunday nights are dark. That's when our theatres are dark. So many of the London actors who were in West End were able to go and see this dress rehearsal of 3 Sisters by the great Lee Strasberg. A friend of mine went to it. I was doing something else. And she said the intermission was 2.5 hours had gone by before we got to the intermission because of the thinking that was going on. And the interminable slow shifts between tears and laughter. And at one point, Sandy Dennis stopped. Sandy Dennis was a wonderful American actress. I mean, wonderful. Stopped and burst into floods of tears. And Lee Strasberg ran forward and said, "What's the matter, Sandy dear?" And she said, "It's this chair. It's just not talking to me." Well, I'm sorry, but that's rubbish. It's all rubbish. That is nonsense as far as I'm concerned. You know. And the thing about the Russians don't do Chekhov like that, because the Russian psyche goes from tears to laughter in an instant. Bang, bang. It's like
They're
that.
so passionate.
It's you're laughing 1 second. But now, by the way, this is just Strasbourg. 99.9% of American actors know, of course, how to do Chekhov, and they don't do this kind of. But at that particular time, in that particular place, Strasbourg and the Actors Studio, that's what they did to it. And of course, it became the most boring, tedious thing anybody had ever seen.
Sounds
And the English
awful.
critics ripped it to shreds. They said, this is awful. And of course, they all thought they were doing the most wonderful work in the universe.
Oh,
but they weren't.
Because they were thinking.
Because they were actors.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and Chekhov is. I have a hard time with Chekhov sometimes too. Every actor has.
Yes,
because
it's
so
not
hard.
easy stuff.
But it's not, and you can very well be boring very
Yeah.
easily.
You have to treat them like human beings.
Yeah.
I think people
Yeah.
forget that they're human
It's the same with
beings.
Williams.
My American agent, when the agent I got before I came to America happened to be in London. And he came to see the Three Sisters I did where I played
Yeah.
Vashinin. He opened the door. He said, "Christ, that was a boring show. this was the big hit of London that season." He said, "But if ever you're in America," he said, "I'd like to look after you." So that's how I got my American agent. But you know that it can be it's hellishly boring.
I've seen things like I've seen The Seagull before, where I just
yeah.
wished he would have committed suicide
Yes,
a lot
yes.
sooner.
And the Three Sisters, why don't they just get on the damn train and go to Moscow?
Just
It's
go.
quite easy. They have
Stop.
money.
Yeah.
More fun to wallow in it,
Yeah.
don't you know? And that's a good thing. As I was saying earlier, when you go, you don't go to the theater to watch people feel for 2 hours.
no,
you don't.
no.
You go to feel something.
Yeah,
You go to be.
you feel it.
to-
That-
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
And again, the actor, after a while, you know, I always say it's wonderful for you to feel it at the beginning, but you know, try feeling it 6 months into a long run. You ain't going to feel it.
Do you think maturity makes you a better actor?
No,
No.
no. There's an awful lot of really bad old actors around. And some people say I'm one of them, by the way.
No, not.
I did a little low-budget movie in England where I played an English gangster. And I go online on IMDb, and you get all the people saying what they, the amateur critics, and most of them are very nice about it. But go down a bit. No wonder Ian Ogilvy stopped acting. He's the worst actor I've ever seen in my life. I mean, you start hitting, they start hitting. People have opinions.
Yeah, I can't.
Well, and then is
I
that the
can't
movie
read them.
that We Still Kill the Old Way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a lot of people thought I was quite funny in that, but there were other people went, God, worst actor I've ever seen.
Well, no, all of them are not going to like you. That's
course
not.
not,
You,
exactly.
So you have to play for. You have to play for what you know best. You can't.
I think obviously maturity and age, it should make you better. God help you if it doesn't.
With
really.
more life experience, I would
Right,
think. I
exactly.
would hope.
Exactly.
I would hope.
And before we move to our rapid fire questions, I want to ask.
There's a rapid fire question.
Yes,
Ryan?
you got to answer really quickly.
Oh my God.
Actually, we have
can
to
you-
ask them quickly.
Can you tell us your story of how you met the Queen
Yeah.
and
It's all
what
sweet,
transpired?
Yeah, I was in this. The Queen, and as you probably all know, is very fond of horses, and her whole family are fond of horses, and they got the money to have them. And Prince Charles likes polo, and I'd done a little job for a company called Dunhill, and Dunhill always had a big marquee at the polo grounds at Windsor Castle on the polo days. They would host with champagne and things. And they said, "Would you like to come to one of our polo days?" And the royal family there. And I said, "Okay." So I'm in this tent, and there's really nobody there particularly. I started watching the polo, but watching polo is a crashing ball, frankly. It's like a lot of people on horseback looking for their car keys. It's just the most awful, boring thing. Anyway, I'm in the tent, and all of a sudden, in comes the Queen in rubber boots, Wellington boots, and an old scarf, and because she's been watching the polo. So I think, oh, there's the Queen. Oh, okay. Don't look. Don't look. So I purposely didn't look, because I thought poor woman was stared at all her life, And then I get a tap on the shoulder, and it's the chap who's with her. It's called an equerry, and the equerry said, "Mr. Ogilvy, would you like to meet the Queen?" And I thought, oh, poor woman, she meets her. I said, "No, it's fine. No, it's fine." He went, "No. Would you like to meet the Queen?" And I realised it was a summons, actually. It wasn't a suggestion. So I went over, and she's tiny. She's a very little woman. And you're not supposed to start conversations with the Queen. You're supposed to wait for her to ask a question. Poor woman must have asked 20,000 questions in her lifetime. And I was thinking, this is such an informal thing. It's not like anybody else is around. The equerry had gone. It was just me and her standing in the middle of a tent with really 5 people in the tent maybe, and they weren't looking at it. I thought, oh, hell with it. I'm going to ask her a question. And I knew she loved horses. And for some reason, I remembered the name of her ceremonial horse she used to ride when the Trooping of the Colour, when she all had a military uniform years ago. And I said, ma'am, whatever happened to Bombardier? And her little face just lit up. And she went, oh, well, it's funny you should ask that. He's still alive, you know. He's very old, and he lives in a field here at Windsor. He's retired, like I should be, she said. And she said, and I visit him every day, and I take him an apple or a carrot or something. And she said, today was just like any other day. I went down there with my apple, and there's old Bombardier, and he trots up, and I go into the field with him. And I'm feeding him this apple, and I suddenly hear this pounding noise. And she said, I looked round, she said, there was this horse, a huge black stallion. And it was charging up from the other side of the field with its ears back and its teeth bared, like that. She had this impression of a homicidal horse. And she said, and I ran. She said, I dropped the apple, and I ran, and I got to the gate, and I got through the gate, and I shut the door just as he arrived. She said, you know, you very nearly lost your sovereign, she said.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, well, that's nice, because she has actually managed to tell somebody else a story. What happens is, she says, how was your journey here today? And then she listens to 5 minutes of, you know, the train was very comfortable, ma'am, and, you know, nervous people telling her boring shit, frankly, most of the time.
Someone finally asked
and
her
this time
question.
she actually managed to tell somebody, a complete stranger, a funny story, which I thought was rather nice. So anyway, that's my Queen story.
That's
You
lovely.
You didn't get knighted?
Not for that. No,
Okay.
No.
I always want to call you Sir Ian Ogilvy.
I think we should.
Yeah. Okay,
We should. No one would know the difference, but
No. All right. Well, we're going to move on to our rapid fire questions. I'll just start, and then we'll just go back and forth.
Gotcha.
And these are real quick questions, real simple answers.
So don't do my long.
Don't get
interminable
long-winded.
answer.
We've loved your long-windedness up to this point. It is now
Gone.
time to
Finish.
Yes.
Okay.
So dream role on stage.
Gary Essendine, Present Laughter.
Ooh, who was your acting inspiration?
John Gillian.
Who were you most intimidated to work with? Well, we kind of already did that one, but
James Mason.
James Mason. Who do you want to work with the most that you haven't at this point?
Jennifer Lawrence. She's terribly pretty, and I think she's very good.
Good answer.
Good answer. Good enough for me. If you could be on any television show right now, what would it be?
Remake of Friends.
Really?
Best situation comedy ever made, and it lasted millions of years, and they all made $1 million an episode. Yeah. I can't think of anything more lovely than being on something like that.
And making $1 million an
Yeah,
episode.
I might argue about Frasier being Frasier.
You liked it better. Okay.
Yeah, I think. But
It's apples and oranges.
apples
It's apples and
yeah.
oranges.
Okay, and our final question here is: Alec Baldwin once said, "We already shit on the Actor Studio, so here we go."
Well, we didn't mean to.
He said, "I can't think of any business where you learn more about yourself than this business. In your long, full career, what have you learned about yourself, or what have you found out about yourself?"
That I wasn't nearly as good as I thought I was when I was young, that I wasted an awful lot of time not being as good as I should have been. I could have been that much better when I was young. I'm pleased that I've improved, and I think I'm all right now. I'm not bad now, but so I bloody well should be, frankly, after all those years. I wish in a way that somebody had said to me, "You need to do a bit more than this, you know. You really do." Yeah. But it's only a mild regret, because I had a lovely time, for heaven's sake. I was one of the luckiest actors of my generation. I worked, and I didn't have to do anything else.
There you go.
Can't
Very
ask for anything
definition of
And-
succce. I worked.
It has been an absolute pleasure.
Yes, sir.
I'm so grateful you decided to come and join us today. Remember to Once a Saint, Ian Ogilvy, an actor's memoir. Pick it up where you can. I loved reading it, and I would be happy to read it again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ian.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you
it was
so
very,
much.
very nice and very nice. Sometimes these things are a bit, but this was lovely. Thank you.
Well, thank you for bearing with us.
I think we said thank you enough
Yes, we
times.
probably have. Yeah.
Thank you. No,
Cut
thank you,
all
sir.
the cut
If the
the last
camera
thing.
continues.